Okay, we know that you might be sick of hearing about spooky good deals this Halloween weekend, but we've chosen this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to bring back one of our most popular specials. The WagerTalk Fill Your Cart is back. This Friday, October 29th, Saturday, October 30th, and Sunday, October 31st, you will get a 31% discount on everything you fit into your cart. Whether it's a daily package, a one-day all access, a 3, 7, or 30 package, a full season of college hoops, or a full 12 months from your favorite handicapper, you will save 31% with coupon Halloween31. You can fill your goodie bag as many times as you want until the clock strikes midnight on Sunday. Finish off October with this ghostly good deal and fill your cart wisely.
Wednesday, October 27th, WagerTalk Today. I'm not the Prez, I'm Steve Merrill. That is not Teddy Covers, that is Rob Veno. It's Wacky Wednesday, Rob Veno, here at WagerTalk Today. The Prez and Teddy are solving life's problems as we speak. They're on assignment, but I'm tickled to have Rob Veno as my co-host today for Wednesday. We've got a great show. Ronald Cabang, YouCapper, up first here in a few minutes. We're going to talk a little college football, a little NBA with Ronald. And, of course, Rob, you've got a big game breakdown, World Series style. You know, Teddy hit game 1 a couple nights ago on Monday. You're going to hit game 2 for tonight, the Tuesday big game, or the Wednesday, rather, big game breakdown, game 2 between the Braves and Astros. Before we get to that, though, Rob, I'm going to ask you, what did you learn last night? I mean, I learned that although the Braves won game 1, they might be in some trouble in this series. Obviously, I don't want to take away from your big game breakdown, Thunder, but just your thoughts on Charlie Morton out for the World Series now. Broken fibula, got hit in the shin by a line drive, 102 miles an hour. I guess that'll do it. He tried to pitch through it, but it was kind of a sad sight to see from one of the better big game pitchers in recent history.
Yeah, and really, we didn't know the severity of it for a while, right, Steve? He threw 16 more pitches on that fractured leg. Covered first base on the play where the ball hit him. So you really couldn't tell. In fact, even John Smoltz on the pitch where Charlie Morton finally came out of the game, they replayed it and went over his landing spot. And, John Smoltz was questioning maybe hamstring, maybe something. I don't think anybody knew until the word came down that he had thrown 16 pitches on a fractured leg. So certainly it puts a dent into the Atlanta starting rotation. We'll get into stuff about that a little later in the show. But hey, listen, what I learned from last night is not something I hadn't learned before, but it's something you're always reminded of. And that is when you're playing NBA totals over the way I do, just because you head into the fourth quarter way ahead of schedule and only needing 41, 42, or 43 points to get there after you've averaged over 60 for the first 3, it doesn't guarantee you're a winner. It's the second time in 5 days where I've had a total that looked like it was easily home, winds up as a push. I refer to the Houston-Dallas game last night, which landed 222 on the closing number of 222. A few days ago, I had a Golden State total that landed 228 and only needed 41 points to get over in the fourth. So they're never a sure thing. Sometimes those fourth quarters just go awry, but it was a good night overall, 2-0-1. I think other stuff that we learned, and maybe we'll learn more, is Denver certainly, and this is not going out on a limb. Anybody who ever watched an NBA game with Nikola Jokic in it knows that injury could be, well, I don't want to say season changing, but maybe future changing. We don't know how long it will be, but the injury where he went down looked pretty severe at the time, and he limped off the floor. And Denver was not the same in the second half. Utah pulled away. Nothing against Utah, but Denver was right in that game until the Jokic injury. So we'll see when we get further word on how long he'll be out. But that was a big one last night. Other than that, a fairly quiet night on the NBA front. Was a good night for me, 2-0 with a push, and we'll see what the NBA brings tonight.
Yeah, and I learned last night that once again, people just cannot take a long-term investment approach. They might claim they do, but I lost my 5% play. The $2 Tuesday play got me, Rob Veno, as it often does. And so now I'm 7-2 on the NBA season. Oh, what a disaster. 7-1 is now turned into 7-2 on the season. Every play was a 4% play. Last night was a 5% play. That's do the math, 1% stronger. That's 1 unit more. So 7-1 on 4-unit plays, 0-1 on a 5-unit play. Yet many people, of course, have gotten just that one game. So they have missed going 7-1 on all the other plays. What are you going to do? We're only 1 week in. I don't even consider that a long-term approach, by the way. 7-2 is not a long-term approach. Even one season is not really a long-term approach. You and I have been doing this for decades. I've been doing it for a quarter century now, 25 years when I started in 1996. So once again, I just preach the importance of not overreacting, money management, shopping for line value. We always tell people there are 3 key elements to winning in sports betting long-term. It's, of course, picking the right teams. But guess what? That's only third in the order of importance. Money management and line value are both more important. And the extreme example I give is you could go 99-1, 99% winners. And if you bet your whole bankroll in every game, you're going to still end up broke with that one loss. Obviously, it's an absurd example, but it just shows money management trumps all else. And shopping for line value, Rob, you talk about these games are landing within a point or so of the line. I know it's not like it used to be, but there's still variance at the different sports books. And you shop around, you can get an extra half a point or a point on your sides and totals. So I just preach once again, if you're going to do this, folks, you can have fun with it, but why not win as you do it as well and take a serious investment approach and treat it like a business? Rob, before we get to Ronald, we're going to talk a little bit more NBA. Give me maybe one underachiever, one overachiever for you after the first week or so of the NBA season that you've seen.
Well, the underachiever, I think at this point in time, considering the expectations, could probably be either Brooklyn or the Lakers, whichever you want, both with, conference title expectations, both off the kind of slow starts. Overachiever, Charlotte Hornets, I don't think were expected by many to be as good out of the chute as they are. Gordon Hayward's return has obviously helped that a little bit, but the LaMelo Ball show is rolling right now as far as pace and points are concerned. So I think Charlotte, a little bit of an overachiever. I'll go to a play that I had on the future season over-under win total, Steve, the Chicago Bulls. Overachieving probably by their win percentage right now. But I think a lot of people were on the Bulls bandwagon and played that over 42.5. I think it got as high as 43.5 right before the season started. So maybe the Bulls could be considered an early season overachiever, although they're not going to go 82-0, but I think they're going to be a playoff team, and certainly they'll be good, barring injury, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the Bulls because I was going to close out here our little NBA talk by talking about the only teams that have yet to fail to cover. First of all, there's only one team in the league that has yet to cover a point spread, and that's the Detroit Pistons, 0-3 against the number. And ironic enough, they opened against those Chicago Bulls back in game 1. And to Joe Ranieri's remorse, I dared to fade the contrarian play on the NBA TV show that Wednesday. And I actually had a best bet on the Bulls, and they snuck it out. Never in doubt. It was a close one. But Chicago, now 4-0 against the spread. 2 other teams are perfect against the number. A team we didn't mention, the Memphis Grizzlies, 3-0 against the point spread, despite being just 2-1 straight up. And the old Utah Jazz, 3-0 straight up, 3-0 ATS, a great point spread team last year. They went on that monster run mid-season. Well, they came out of the gate hot, perfect 3-0 straight up in ATS so far this season. Bulls and Jazz, the only teams that are perfect straight up and against the spread so far this year. Hey, let's keep the NBA talk going. Let's bring in Ronald Cabang, YouCapper. Ronald, welcome to the show. And, you cover the NBA as well as Rob and myself. I'll just get your early thoughts before we hit a game tonight. We're going to look at the Hornets and Magic, but your early thoughts on the NBA season. Rob mentioned the play-on-play against. Any surprises or anything you weren't expecting so far?
I mean, I kind of agree with Rob with Charlotte. They do look like they're overachieving. They had a tough preseason game where they scored only like 59 points. I'll be talking about that game later, but I do agree with him that they're overachieving a little bit, and also with the Lakers. Everyone expected so much with that group, and they definitely haven't showed up to the extent or the potential that everyone was looking at.
Yeah, and of course with the Lakers, Rob hinted on it, is you got to talk about load management, and teams like Brooklyn also with Durant. Obviously. Irving's not in the picture, but, you've got these guys who have always had load management injuries in the past. And Lakers also had looked like they have some cohesiveness issues also that I think we can't overstate as far as, Anthony Davis making the unbelievably bad life decision to maybe fight Dwight Howard. There's a handful of people I wouldn't mess with in the world. Dwight Howard's probably one of them. He's a big human being, and he's got very little to lose at this point of his career compared to the risk reward for AD there is not good. And, of course, bringing Westbrook in. Westbrook kind of turned the season around for the Wizards last year. I'm actually bullish on the Wizards this year without him, though, as long as Beal can get healthy. So we'll see what happens there. Ronald, I want to stick with the Hornets, though, because let's look at that game. It's actually the first game on the schedule tonight. And we get Hornets and Magic. Tony Mejia's Orlando Magic, Joe Ranieri's second favorite team, the Orlando Magic, after his Miami Heat. Obviously, Orlando has come upon some tough times in recent years in the NBA. Tonight, we're seeing them right about a 6-point home dog, although I've seen a little bit of money come in on Orlando. It's down to 5.5 now in some spots. Total opened around 217 last night. Now it's as high as 220. So we've definitely seen some money on the over, a little sprinkle on the Orlando Magic, and that's definitely sharp money early in the day, and the public looks to be on Charlotte. How are you attacking this one at 7 o'clock Eastern tonight, Hornets at Magic?
Well, I mean, I hate to say it. Usually, I don't like to look at the public versus sharp money type stuff. But I mean, the numbers look good for the Hornets in this one. I mean, I think 6 points or 5.5 favorites against a Magic team that's struggling right now offensively doesn't seem too far off. The Hornets, like I mentioned earlier, since that preseason game where they put up 59 points against the Mavs, they've looked really sharp offensively. I think that game kind of lit a fire under their butts. I mean, even though it's a preseason game, that was just an embarrassing performance, and Coach Borrego was probably just all over them for it. I mean, look at these numbers to start off the season. Second in the league in points per game, second in offensive rating, second in assist-to-turnover ratio, second in turnover percentage, fifth in offensive rebound percentage, and fifth in pace. And the Magic, on the other hand, they're on the other side of the spectrum. They're 28th in points per game, 27th in offensive rating, 23rd in assist-to-turnover ratio. I mean, they just look bad offensively. We talk about the Lakers not being a cohesive unit. That's sort of like what the Magic are right now. As long as they start Suggs at point guard, I think they're going to continue to struggle too. He has the highest usage percentage on that team at 27.7%, but he's tied for seventh highest efficiency rating on the team at 7.3. And you compare that to their top player, who's Wendell Carter Jr. at 18.5. It's tough to see a team like that, like win anytime soon. If your Wendell Carter is your most efficient player on the team. Defensively, neither team is scary. I don't think Charlotte has really showed anything more than Magic on the defensive end. But so I'll be backing the more efficient offensive team. Charlotte -6, -5.5 on the road. If you can get -5.5, that's a good number. I think LaMelo and Miles continue their hot streak and take the Magic by 8 or more points.
All right, Ronald. So let's stay with it and let's talk my language for a minute here and look at the total. We see the push from 217 up to 220. You described all the deficiencies in the Orlando Magic. Would they be a reason to play this game under the 220? Or what we see out of Charlotte is their ability to carry any opponent into fast pace? Do they get Orlando mixed up in that with them? And, just the amount of opportunities turn into an over. Which way would you approach that? Would you think that offensively Orlando's so bad I need to play under, or Charlotte just makes everybody play fast and we're going to get enough chances to get over the number? And real quick here, you talked about Jalen Suggs, and the return of Gary Harris Jr. to the lineup last game may ease the burden on him somewhat at that position. And maybe the two play together, who knows? But Harris was used off the bench. I was a little surprised. Maybe he just wasn't ready to get back into the starting lineup, but I would think that maybe Gary Harris Jr. gets in there. But just your thoughts on the total here, which way you would lean. Don't want to make you commit to a play, but which way you would lean in a situation with contrasting styles like this?
Yeah, I was kind of going back and forth with this on whether or not I take Charlotte or the over. I do like the over here just because of the pace. And both teams, not like I mentioned, not being scary on the defensive end at all. And the Magic, they have had a tough schedule. They played some good defensive teams. So for me, I was definitely leaning the over, and I agree with the line moving up to the 220 or where it is right now. Right now I do see them struggling a lot, but it can't keep up the whole season. But I just don't think they can match the offensive efficiency of Charlotte at this moment. I think there's momentum on their side, whether or not they lost. They lost their last game in overtime to the Boston Celtics, but they still looked good.
Ronald Cabang, YouCapper at SportsMemo.com. And be sure when you go to SportsMemo.com, you find him at YouCapper because he was the #1 NBA handicapper last year at SportsMemo.com. And he's got a strong NBA best bet tonight. He just gave you the Charlotte Hornets -5.5 as a free play here on the show, but he's got an even stronger best bet for his clients tonight. And it is half price, just $15 at SportsMemo. YouCapper at SportsMemo is where you find Ronald's top NBA best bet tonight. Ronald, while we still have you, I want to look at a little college football for this weekend. Let's talk about Louisville and NC State. NC State's a team that's been interesting to follow this year. Obviously, an explosive offense. Currently, I'm seeing them about 6.5-point home favorite here over Louisville. You're going to look at the side or total in this one, Louisville at NC State.
I'm looking at the side here. I know so. Obviously Louisville coming off a 14-point win over Boston College, and NC State lost to Miami Hurricanes last week, and that dropped them off the top 25 rankings. Usually I look into backing a ranked team coming off a loss, but I think as good as their offense is, I think they've been a little bit overrated since beating Clemson. Clemson was ranked 9th in the nation at the time when they played each other. Clemson's now 4-3 and not even in the top 25 anymore. Louisville, on the other hand, they're 4-3 on the season, but I feel have been a little bit underrated. Their current combined record of the 3 teams that they lost to so far is 19-4. 2 of them are also ranked in the top 15 right now, and 2 losses of those 3 games have been by 3 points or less. I think Malik Cunningham will be able to run on this North Carolina State defense. I think the numbers kind of are a little bit misleading because North Carolina State played Mississippi State earlier this year, and Mississippi State only put up like 22 rushing yards or something in that game. So, and the last dual threat QB they played was Austin Kendall from Louisiana Tech, and he rushed 15 times for 71 yards. And Louisiana Tech lost that game by just 7 points as 18.5-point underdogs. I really think Cunningham could have a similar or even greater type of impact on the run game this weekend. So with that, I'll be taking the Cardinals plus 6.5, and I do see some at plus 7, which would be a little bit better.
Yeah, and okay, Ronald, follow-up question, burnt, because I was going to certainly ask you about the Malik Cunningham threat for Louisville. NC State, when you go through their logs, which you obviously did, they just haven't faced anybody of his ability so far this year, dual threat. Austin Kendall's nice, but he's no way, shape, or form Malik Cunningham. So obviously I would have posed the question to you about him against that defense. But let's take that and let's just apply it to the total for 1 second here. This number sits at 57. In that game against Louisiana Tech with a dual threat quarterback, that number reached 61, which would be over this number that we're looking at this week. And in fact, 2 of the last 3 that NC State has played have reached 61. Louisville's pretty much an over team at this point when the number is in reason. 57 look a little small to you, or do you think the NC defense can slow, or do you think NC State overall can slow it down enough to keep this thing under the number?
Yeah, I think that's why I stayed away from the total, just because that number 57 looked questionable. I mean, I feel like it should be an over game, like you mentioned. I mean, both teams offensively, they could do a lot of damage, and I don't know. I don't think Louisville's defense could be that much of a sort of like an all-around stop defense. So I think, for me, the number was just too
That's NC State minus the 6.5, and that of course goes on Saturday night at 7:30 Eastern. And speaking of that total, guys, it's interesting right now. Once again, to my point about shopping around for line value, I mean, unless the WagerTalk live odds screen isn't accurate, which I doubt because it is accurate, we're seeing anywhere from 56 to 58.5 on that total right now. 57, 57.5, 56. So it just shows the importance of shopping around for 1 or 2 points because that total readily available 2-point swing right now for that Louisville NC State game. Once again, Louisville a 6.5-point dog at NC State. Tough spot for NC State after that loss. High scoring 1-point loss last week against Miami. Those are the kind of games that can definitely leave you a little bit flat the following week. Ronald, on the way out, let us know. Once again, you're YouCapper at SportsMemo.com. They find you YouCapper, SportsMemo.com. A strong NBA best bet tonight with a free play on Charlotte. You've got a stronger play going tonight. You're on a 60% football run since the end of September. What else do you have planned for this week at SportsMemo.com, YouCapper?
Yeah, I mean, every day I'm probably most likely going to have some premium NBA plays. NFL, I was on a nice run the last couple of weeks, and then I was actually on vacation this week. I don't want to use that as an excuse of going 0-2 in the NFL. But yeah, I was really loving the beach in Hawaii. But I'll get back on it in the NFL this week and get some good plays going.
And if anything, you've come back recharged and refocused, so it might be a good thing. This is probably a good time to jump on board for YouCapper, SportsMemo.com.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ronald. We'll catch up with you again soon. And Rob, get ready. Get your hat on. I'm calling you out of the bullpen here for Teddy Covers. Baseball style, big game breakdown, World Series Game 2 in 20 seconds.
Okay, we know that you might be sick of hearing about spooky good deals this Halloween weekend, but we've chosen this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to bring back one of our most popular specials. The WagerTalk Fill Your Cart is back. This Friday, October 29th, Saturday, October 30th, and Sunday, October 31st, you will get a 31% discount on everything you fit into your cart. Whether it's a daily package, a one-day all access, a 3, 7, or 30 package, a full season of college hoops, or a full 12 months from your favorite handicapper, you'll save 31% with coupon Halloween31. You can fill your goodie bag as many times as you want until the clock strikes midnight on Sunday. Finish off October with this ghostly good deal and fill your cart wisely.
And it's time for Big Game Breakdown. It won't be Teddy Covers style, and I don't know what Teddy would have used in this spot, but I'm going to let you guys know what I'm going to use in this spot, filling in for Teddy here. And we're going to look at World Series game number 2 tonight. Obviously, a big win for the Atlanta Braves last night. Get up 1-0, get one win on the road. Always the objective of the visiting team. Certainly, they'd like to get 2 here tonight, but let's take a look at what we've seen. Line movement wise here is a huge push toward the over, and a lot of reasons if you can still find the 8.5s out there, because at a quick glance, just while we were in break, I see some 9s out there at this point in time. So keep looking for the 8.5s if you can find them. But we have Max Fried on one side of the equation here, starting for Atlanta, Jose Urquidy on the other side for the Houston Astros. Houston's been great against left-handed pitching all season long. In fact, they've been great against left-handed pitching for about 3 or 4 seasons now. They had a 270 batting average, 789 OPS, which ranked 4th in Major League Baseball overall versus left-handed pitching so far this year. Max Fried, we saw this in his most recent start against the Dodgers. Some numbers were pointed out, and those numbers continued. The amount of, if we get into the sabermetrics and analytics now, the amount of barrels that Max Fried has allowed this year, where opposing hitters get the sweet spot of the bat on the ball, It's the highest of his career at this point. It's not been a great year for Max Fried avoiding hard hit contact. In fact, his hard hit percentage is up 10.5% over what it was last year. That's a pretty drastic increase, especially against a team that for the most part does not strike out and make solid contact. So the Astro Bats may be able to jump Max Fried here. We'll see how he comes out, but I can understand from that side of the coin why people would play over. If I look at Jose Urquidy real quick here, he was awful his last time out against the Red Sox in the ALDS. Only 1 2/3, 5 hits, 6 runs, 5 of those earned. But prior to that, his 2 starts were against Oakland and Tampa Bay, and he was throwing pretty well heading into that contest. He has vowed that he's ready to go here. I don't know what starting pitcher wouldn't say that heading into a World Series game. But still, the Atlanta Braves are so hot, and especially when you have to deal with the 2 big left-handed bats right now in that Braves lineup, which are Eddie Rosario and Freddie Freeman. This could be a difficult road for Urquidy. We'll probably see bullpen early out of Houston. Their bullpen has not been spectacular this season. So overall spectacular this season. So I can really understand why people have flocked toward over 8.5 here. Like I say, I would recommend if you can still find that, go ahead and get it. I'll throw in real quick here the bullpen situation for the Braves. When you look at what they did last night, it almost seems as if they were going to be content with 1 win here in Houston. Get the split, get back home. But Minter threw 43 pitches. You can chalk him up as unavailable tonight. Luke Jackson threw 20. Matzik threw 20. And actually, all the praise Matzik got coming in to this game last night after what he did against the Dodgers, the Astros hit him. Astros got 3 hits off of him. He did strike out 2, but he threw 20 pitches, and then Will Smith came in and threw 18. Just from my handicapping standpoint, I usually view anything over 20 as a little bit of reluctance to think that particular reliever is going to come back with a really solid effort. These guys, both Jackson and Matzik, hit the 20 mark. I think the bullpen for the Braves might be a little in question here tonight. Houston's is always in question. I'm going to really quick here before I turn it over to you, Steve, just take a long-term approach where we stand right now as far as series price is concerned. As of this morning, you could find the Astros plus 145, anywhere from 140 to 150, needing to win 4 of the next 6. The Charlie Morton injury, which we discussed early on in this show, is a huge factor. We know what Atlanta had to do in Game 4 against the Dodgers, and it's probably what they would have done here in Game 4. Once again, they opened with Jesse Chavez, and they came back with Drew Smyly, righty-lefty, to kind of throw the Dodger lineup out of sync. Now you have to do that for 2 consecutive games because Game 5 would have been Charlie Morton's spot. Braves bullpen games for 2 games against the Astros lineup. I think there's a real good possibility here that the Astros can come back from this 1-0 deficit because of that injury, especially if they steal one here tonight. Rather than playing Houston tonight and laying price, if you believe they can win this series, then take the 140 or 150, whatever you can find, because if they win tonight, I think they get in a very good position, driver's seat position in this series. Let's not forget that even though they switched venues to a National League city, Dusty Baker was a National League manager for a long, long time. So I don't think a lot of mistakes will be made managing-wise by Dusty Baker. So a couple of things in play here. I think the over, I agree with the way money has flowed toward the over here this evening in Game 2. But I also think the Astros are in a live spot as a pretty sizable underdog now to win this series.
Yeah, and how about this, Rob? I was going to ask you about the series price because I was going to say the same thing. They're going from $1.40 series favorite before Game 1 to now plus money. But how about this? You can actually get Houston Astros plus 1.5 in the series handicap at minus 135. So 1 game later, you're getting them at the same juice, a teeny bit less at plus 1.5 games, and you would have them at pick them before they lost Game 1. So they've lost 1 game, but you're getting 1.5 games more now for the same price with Charlie Morton out of Games 4 and 7 maybe. So just scanning the different options out there, I think that's the best play is Astros plus 1.5 on the adjusted series price, minus 135. They're down 1 game. They're plus 1.5. They were down no games. They were picked yesterday. So, and Morton is now out for 2 more games maybe that he would have pitched. So I think you don't want to say it's a must win for the Braves when they're up 1-0, but with Fried on the mound tonight, this is a very important game for Atlanta, because I really think if it's 1-1 heading back to Atlanta, with Fried only going one more game out of the final 5 and no Morton, hard not to say Houston's not the favorite at that point, even without McCullers, who's, of course, another injury to a key pitcher for the other team. Rob, a couple minutes left here on the show. Once again, you've just done a fantastic job filling in for Teddy Covers. I'm so proud of you. But I wanted to get your thoughts on, let's do a little NFL. We've talked NBA, we've talked baseball, we touched on a college football game. I'll throw it to you, my man. Just where do you want to go with the NFL? Some big picture thoughts maybe here as we head into midweek. Of course, we're doing some panel videos this week on WagerTalk.com, WagerTalk TV, college and pro football. I believe Teddy, myself, and Kelly are going to do 3 of the big NFL games tomorrow. We'll have those posted Thursday. My Fade the Public NFL video got shellacked last week, Rob. It's actually down for the year. And, it's funny. I started that one last year, late November, and I waited until late November because I think it works better in the season late. Went 31-7. I said, look, we'll do it early this year, but tread lightly, because I think the lines do get sharper as we go throughout the NFL season, and that extra value from the heavy one-sided games comes to play. But I saw an interesting stat earlier this week on Twitter. I think it's the first time since 2005, this late in the season, that no underdog of more than 7 has won outright yet. Is that crazy? We've had no upset of a 7.5-point dog or more yet in the season. Big favorites, as Ralph Michaels has pointed out, continue to cash the last 5 years. Just big picture thoughts for the NFL. I'll throw it to you. What are your thoughts on pro football and how it's played out so far?
Well, the NFL football is NFL football, right, Steve? It is difficult to navigate. I think just from a broad perspective, in my mind, NFL is as much situation as it is 22 who line up against each other on the field. Situation just plays so much into NFL results. That's the type of thing that leaves people scratching their heads on Mondays. But if we want to get game specific real quick, and we won't get specific as far as selection is concerned, but this game tomorrow night for Green Bay, with the coronavirus problems with 2 of their top receivers, Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard, has caused that line to go crazy. And it's really caused a lot of back and forth debate now that the number has hit 6.5, Steve. A lot of people who believe in Aaron Rodgers, a guy who's made non-household names into household names in one game before. Can he do it again here? He still has Robert Tonyan. He still has Randall Cobb. They can still run the football a little bit, but most of the money has absolutely flocked toward the Arizona side here, thinking that losing Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard is a big deal, an extreme deal to the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers actually agreed with it. I saw him in a press conference where he acknowledged the fact that his number 1 receiver, the loss of him, kind of makes things more difficult on him. The offensive line has not been the best at pass protection. If it takes these guys a little longer to separate here, it could be troublesome for Green Bay. We've seen it before, but that certainly is a game where I see a lot of people lining up on both sides of the fence now at 6.5. Certainly not when it was 3 and the number was being driven up. So that's an important game. And lastly, I'll close real quick here, Steve. There's some rumblings right now that this may be it for Pete Carroll in Seattle this year. And perhaps this may be it for Ken Norton Jr. as defensive coordinator as well. Kind of puts them in an absolute must situation on Sunday at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that they're only 3.5-point favorites over. I don't think we could have foreseen that when the season started, but things do change as the season progresses and injuries happen, and Geno Smith just hasn't looked very good to this point. And more than that, Steve, it doesn't look at all as if the Seattle offensive coaching staff trusts him one bit to do anything with the football other than hand it off. So we're going to see with Seattle. It's a great situation for them. I think there's plenty of line value for them, but whether or not Geno Smith can get the job done against a Jacksonville team that's on the ascension, they're playing better for sure. We'll see how that goes as well. But I think that's interesting that Pete Carroll's tenure now being talked about as potentially being over at season's end.
Yeah, what a great college football matchup that would have been a decade ago. Urban Meyer against Pete Carroll, right? And by the way, you have filled in great for Teddy because his big game breakdown yesterday was the Packers and Cardinals tomorrow. So I did want to touch on that. So I'm glad you did, because that's a huge game before we'll speak again, most likely tomorrow on Thursday night. And then Teddy led the show yesterday with what did we learn from Monday Night Football about Pete Carroll's worst Seattle team ever. So you covered the two things I was going to ask you there. So you definitely were channeling the inner thoughts of Teddy Covers there. And yeah, I mean, on the surface, that line, by the way, Rob, is mostly 3 minus 120. It's not even really 3.5. It's 3 with some juice on Seattle. And it does jump out to you when you see them as a home favorite of only a field goal against Jacksonville. But then you look, Seattle's lost 5 of their last 6 straight up. Now, granted, their last 3 losses have come against the Rams, at Pittsburgh on Sunday night, and the Saints. So it's a huge step down in class here against Jacksonville. I mean, the big question is, do the Jaguars continue that momentum from the London win and then the bye week? I mean, on the surface, it is a decent scheduling setup probably for Jacksonville. By the way, just an advanced look at my Fade the Public video. There's one game that looks really public, about as public as I've seen all season. I'm sure it will make the cut this Friday night when I put the video out, and that's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. My Cincinnati Bengals, and I say that because I have used them for my clients each of the last 3 weeks. 2-1 against the spread, although that Green Bay game was really 3 when I put it out that Saturday, and it went down to 2.5, 2. And of course, it lands 3 late with 2 minutes to go in overtime. So I very well could be 3-0 with the Bengals. But I had them against the Lions. And as I'm watching that game 2 weeks ago, I'm thinking, in hindsight, Rob, we're going to look back a month from now and be like, we only had to lay 3.5 at Detroit with the Cincinnati Bengals. And then, of course, last week, I took the shot with them as a big dog. I thought they had a good shot to win that game, definitely cover. What was it, 17-13? They're losing. It was tight, and then boom, 41-17. They run off 28 unanswered. Looks like the betting markets, Rob, have caught up to the Bengals. But like I've said with these Fade the Public videos, it's a lot of times they just don't want to play the other team. And the public's been going against the Jets almost every week this season. And I think that's a big part here. So it looks to me now like the odds makers just can't price this one high enough. I'm seeing the Bengals as about a 10.5 point favorite. It was 11. As we're speaking now, the line's dropping 10.5. I'm looking at the live WagerTalk odds screen. So somebody out there is running to Fade the Public in that one, I guess, with the Jets. But there's only 3 teams in the league, Rob, that have covered only 1 game this season. My Washington football team, not my Washington football team, the New York Jets, and the 49ers. The 49ers are the other team with only 1 spread cover. Last couple minutes here on the show, I'll just throw it back to you. Any thoughts on those ugly ducklings? Any potential play on maybe with the Niners, I guess, of the 3? The Redskins have some serious problems this year, and I'm not looking probably to touch them anytime soon.
Yeah, the Redskins, Steve, and the love affair you have with Cincinnati so far this year, I have had with the Washington Redskins as well, whether it be fade or total over. I think it became apparent real early this year that the lack of sacks combined with the inability to cover, that's the worst combination you can have in pro football, is not being able to get to the quarterback and not being able to cover anybody. And it just shows up week after week after week. And, last week they had opportunities with Taylor Heineke inside Green Bay territory. I think they had 3 consecutive red zone trips in a row in the third quarter and came away with nothing but maybe a field goal out of those. So when the offense isn't going to score for them, they're going to lose for sure. They won't cover, and it'll probably stay under. But for the most part, they're a buy on over team at any price, really, because they have the capability to score. Terry McLaurin still had a bunch of yards. The team had a bunch of yards, just didn't punch it in. Some extenuating circumstances there. I don't know that they'll continue. So Washington, to me, is a team I've had focus on all season long. The 49ers, a different story here. I think the quarterback problems are real, and you combine that with the rest of the injuries to the team, and it makes life really difficult. What we once thought of as being maybe the best division in football, now when you consider where Seattle and San Francisco are at, it's really a 2-team division, and the other 2 are just muddling, trying to keep their heads above water because they're sinking fast. So I don't know that I'd be in a rush to play San Francisco until they were healthier. But the quarterback situation bugs me because it doesn't matter. If you scream for Trey Lance, I don't know that he's any better. I'm not a fan of Jimmy Garoppolo. He hasn't shown us anything. Lance definitely is the future, but I don't know if the future is this Sunday.
I'm sorry about that. I muted myself. I was making a Redskin reference and I automatically muted myself. See what happens? That's unbelievable. I was saying I tricked you, Rob, into saying Washington Redskins several times, and then I muted myself. The powers that be, because I can imagine how many politically correct people were irritating right now. But until they get the new nickname, I refuse to call them football team. By the way, Red Hogs is the front runner in my opinion. It's a no-brainer. If they don't go with Red Hogs, I might call them Redskins for the next 10 years. Also, as we close out the NFL, if they do throwback games like the Packers did Shouldn't the Redskins be able to wear the old helmet if it's a throwback game? Wouldn't that be great? You talk about riling up some feathers. But yeah, Washington is the ultimate over team. I mean, first of all, Heineke's not playing that bad. You would have thought he's the reason they're struggling. Right. However, if you look closer, like you said, the red zone problems have been a huge concern last week. And then third down conversion. I think that's a very underrated stat that we don't talk about a lot. They're 35% offensively. Their defense, 57% allowed on third down this year. That is why the Washington football team is only 4-3 to the over. Surprising, but 1-6 against the spread. Not surprising. They're at Denver this weekend as a 3-point dog. A pretty cheap price for a road dog that's just covered one game this year against the point spread. Once again, the three worst point spread teams, the only ones that have only one cover this year: Washington football team, New York Jets, San Francisco 49ers. If you're looking for the best teams, we go back to the NFC West. The Cardinals, not a surprise, 7-0 straight up. They're 6-1 against the spread. Tampa Bay, though, also 6-1 straight up, just 3-4 against the number. So obviously you're paying a premium there for the Super Bowl champs. Cardinals have been a little bit under the radar. But I'll close it with this, Rob. It goes back to Thursday Night Football. The Packers lose 38-3 as a 3-point road favorite in Week 1. They've gone 6-0 straight up in ATS since. If you count that Bengal game as a cover, it was either a push or a cover. And now, as you said, the line is moving heavy against them, not because Aaron Rodgers is out, but because of some supporting cast is out tomorrow night on Thursday. So we'll see how that plays out. It's definitely probably one of the best games we've had this season. By the way, the Dallas Cowboys, the only undefeated point spread team, they might be 5-1 straight up, but they're 6-0 against the spread after that near loss at Tampa back on that opening Thursday night. So Cowboys obviously have been a huge moneymaker. So we've got the best and worst point spread teams in both the NFC East and the NFC West, which is ironic. Rob, thanks for filling in for Teddy Covers today. You get the big game breakdown for baseball. I think you've won a mere 77% return on investment since the All-Star break in MLB, so people should pay attention to your baseball. But your NBA is what everyone really pays attention to. Number one at WagerTalk the past 2.5 years, return on investment over 240% in the NBA. Of course, Rob is on almost daily at 4 o'clock Eastern right here on WagerTalk TV on the NBA Tip-Off Show. I don't know if you're on today, Rob. I'll actually be on this afternoon at 4 Eastern, and then I'm back Friday. And I know you've been doing a lot of days this week. Once again, college football show at 3 Eastern. You do the best damn college football show on Wednesday. 4 o'clock NBA show. Everything available 24/7, archived here on YouTube on WagerTalk TV. And by the way, if you're not subscribed, people, please click the subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to know when these shows are instantly available and when my Fade the Public video is ready this weekend. Give it a thumbs up, like, and comment below. Rob and I love our comments. We read all of them. I reply back. Rob's too busy. Hey, Rob, on the way out here, what else you got going at WagerTalk.com? What should people be keeping an eye on this week for you?
Yeah, they should be keeping an eye out for the NBA, which will come later this afternoon. Generally speaking, I'm a late afternoon NBA release type of handicapper. We like to make sure all these crazy load managements and injuries are pretty well established, Steve. Although last night, you didn't find out about LeBron until extremely late, about a half hour or maybe less before tip-off. But do the best we can with that type of stuff. So NBA will be up and available. We're going to get Thursday, Friday NFL and college football up to all clients a little early this week. By tomorrow morning, everything will be up. So you can look forward to that. I think there's going to be a 5% play on Saturday as well in college football. So plenty to look forward to as we grind through the football seasons. Actually, they're just churning away, really. We're looking at week 9 and week 8. And then heading into, I think, what is it, Steve? It's like 13 days till college basketball. Dear Lord, it's coming at us fast.
Yeah, November 9th. We had Adam Trigger on yesterday. We did a Pac-12 conference preview. And keep in mind, Adam's doing conference previews for all the major conferences at WagerTalk News. And you can find that right on the homepage of WagerTalk.com. It's up in the top left corner. You click WagerTalk News, or you go WagerTalk.com/news, and you get all these college conference previews. There's like 100 games on that opening Tuesday night, November 9th. They're not messing around, to say the least. Last year, I started 17-4 in college hoops. I can't wait for college basketball to start. And despite the miss last night, I'm still 7-2 this year in the NBA, and I'm coming back strong. I'm pissed. We're bouncing back tonight. 2 NBA best bets for myself and World Series Game 2 for Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. He's Rob Veno, WagerTalk.com. Rob, thanks for joining me. Ronald Cabang, YouCapper at SportsMemo.com. Thank you for joining us as well. And check back tomorrow. Teddy Covers should be back. He only gets one day off with the Prez, and I'll be here the rest of the week filling in for the Prez at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on WagerTalk TV, WagerTalk Today. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon tomorrow.
Okay, we know that you might be sick of hearing about spooky good deals this Halloween weekend, but we've chosen this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to bring back one of our most popular specials. The WagerTalk Fill Your Cart is back. This Friday, October 29th, Saturday, October 30th, and Sunday, October 31st, you will get a 31% discount on everything you fit into your cart. Whether it's a daily package, a one-day all access, a 3, 7, or 30 package, a full season of college hoops, or a full 12 months from your favorite handicapper, you will save 31% with coupon Halloween31. You can fill your goodie bag as many times as you want until the clock strikes midnight on Sunday. Finish off October with this ghostly good deal and fill your cart wisely.